Okay, so you asked us to really dive deep into the early life and career of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, specifically looking at the context provided by his father, Shahaji.
Right. And we've got these biography excerpts you shared, which are great source material.
Exactly. So our mission here really is to understand those incredibly tumultuous times Shahaji was operating in. You know, who are the major players? What challenges was he up against?
And it's so important. Grasping this context is, well, absolutely key to understanding the world Shivaji was born into, the complexities he faced later on.
Definitely. We're drawing mainly from excerpts of a biography of Shivaji Maharaj. So that's our core source here.
Good stuff.
So to set the scene,
think
early 17th century, the Nizam Shahi Sultanate. It's feeling serious pressure, growing pressure, from the Mughal Empire up north.
Yeah, and right at the start, you have to consider Malik Ambar. He's such a critical figure in the Nizam Shahi state at this point.
Okay.
I mean, after the Mughals took Ahmednagar around 1600, and despite Chand Bibi Sultana's really heroic defense...
Which ultimately failed, tragically.
Right, it failed. And the infant heir, taken by the Mughals, imprisoned in Gwalior, it honestly looked like the end for the Nizam Shahi.
But it wasn't, was it? That's where it gets fascinating. Malik Ambar steps into that power vacuum.
He does. He doesn't just accept defeat. He rallies the remaining chiefs.
Presents a united front, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Against the Mughals. And he proclaims another infant prince, Murtaza Nizam Shah II.
Right. And moves the court.
Moves the court to the fortress of Dalakabad. Really solidifies his authority, makes a statement.
But concentrating power like that, even if it was necessary, that created some internal friction, didn't it?
Precisely. And if you look at the bigger picture of the political landscape, you see how fragile the Nizam Shahi really was. Malik Ambar offered strong leadership against the Mughals, sure. But his own position, especially being of Abyssinian origin, well, it caused resentment among the established Maratha nobility.
Okay. That internal tension.
Yeah. And that led to Mian Raju emerging as a leader for the Maratha interests. So you've got this divided house, even while facing a common enemy.
So you've got this internal power struggle happening alongside the external threat. Mian Raju controls his own area, north towards Gujarat, south towards Ahmednagar.
That's right, while Malik Ambar holds the territories further south.
And both are, nominally serving the Nizam Shah. But it sounds like their own ambitions, their faction's interests were really driving things.
Oh, absolutely. It's like two power centers, and neither's really fully in sync with the supposed central authority.
It really makes you question the whole nature of loyalty and power back then.
It does. I mean, they offered allegiance in name, sure, but figures like Mian Raju, Malik Ambar, they operated largely as autonomous rulers in their own areas.
Which is just asking for conflict.
Exactly. And Mian Raju's initial peace deal with the Mughals, then warring with Malik Ambar. It just highlights this complex web of alliances, betrayals.
And Malik Ambar eventually won that contest.
He did. Mian Raju was imprisoned, and the Maratha nobles, well, they had to acknowledge Ambar's supremacy, at least for a while.
And Malik Ambar didn't just win militarily. He used his position to really breathe new life into the Nizam Shahi state.
That's a key point. The biography highlights his reorganization of the state, and crucially, his reform of the revenue system.
That wasn't minor, right? It was a big deal.
A fundamental change. It earned him huge respect, renown throughout Maharashtra. He even founded a new capital, Khadki, later Aurangabad, around 1610.
So more than just a general, he's actually state building here.
Absolutely. The takeaway isn't just battle victories. He laid a foundation, showed that long-term power needed more than just military muscle, administrative skill.
That's a critical insight. He was a highly capable administrator. The revenue reforms were seen as effective, fair.
Right. Helped the state's finances, boosted his own standing, and founding Khadki, yeah, that was symbolic and practical, consolidating power, starting a new era.
But the Mughals? They weren't just going to sit back and watch the Nizam Shahi recover, were they?
Not a chance. Malik Ambar successfully retook Ahmednagar, which must have stung Mughal prestige.
Big time.
So Emperor Jahangir sends his son, Shah Jahan, in 1617 with a big army to reclaim that territory.
Okay, so here comes another round of intense conflict.
Indeed. Shah Jahan's arrival really escalated things. The Battle of 1620 was particularly fierce, crucial, and it's here that Shahaji, our central figure, really starts to emerge.
His first appearance on the main stage, so to speak.
Exactly. The biography specifically mentions his bravery, his military skill, being recognized for the first time in this battle.
Even though Ambar was ultimately defeated.
Even then, Shahaji showed remarkable resilience, kept harassing the Mughal camp with raids, wearing them down even in defeat.
So even in a loss, Shahaji makes a name for himself, and this gets noticed.
Oh yes. He gets great honor at the Nizam Shahi court, rises quickly in Malik Ambar's esteem, like a standout player on a losing team getting recognition.
But Shah Jahan, he's smart. He doesn't just rely on force. He starts playing politics, right?
Absolutely. Shah Jahan knew the Nizam Shahi relied heavily on support from the Maratha chiefs. So his focus shifts, undermine that support from within.
Bribery.
Pretty much. He starts a campaign to bribe influential Maratha nobles, like Lukshi Jadhav, offering them high ranks mansabs in the Mughal system.
And Jadhav took the bait.
Reportedly got a mansab of 24,000 horse in 1621. That's huge. Immense power, wealth, a very tempting offer.
Especially for nobles already maybe a bit unhappy with Malik Ambar's dominance.
Exactly. They proved susceptible. And this highlights a key Mughal strategy. Don't just fight. Exploit the internal divisions. Use the lure of personal gain.
Classic divide and conquer. Entice key figures away, weaken the whole structure.
And it worked quite well. Lots of Maratha nobles deserted the Nizam Shahi for these Mughal offers.
But the biography points out Shahaji was different. He stuck with Malik Ambar.
He did, remain steadfastly loyal despite all the desertions. It says a lot about his character, especially in that era.
Definitely stands out.
It truly does. But that loyalty, well, it couldn't stop the bleeding entirely. The defections weakened Ambar considerably.
So he had to make peace.
Ultimately, yes. Had to negotiate with the Mughals, ceded territory because his position was just too weak.
But that peace doesn't last long, does it? As soon as Shah Jahan heads back to Delhi,
Malik Ambar grabs the chance, reclaims the lost territory. It's this constant back and forth.
Until Shah Jahan returns, conflict flares up again. Mughals take it back. Must have been exhausting. So unstable.
A relentless cycle. Conflict, fragile peace, more conflict. By this point, Malik Ambar's resources were seriously depleted.
Even with Shahaji still loyal.
Even then, the Mughal military superiority was just overwhelming. Ambar eventually had to submit, seek an honorable peace, which he kept until his death in 1626.
So Malik Ambar, this dominant figure, is gone. Maybe some stability now.
You'd hope. But no, the biography says the Mughals immediately renewed hostilities, and this time they had Lukshi Jadhav, one of those defectors, actively helping them.
Like vultures circling, yeah. And Shah Jahan gets called away again. Emperor Jahangir dies.
Right, leaving a smaller Mughal force behind in the Deccan.
Which creates an opportunity, maybe, but also new challenges.
For sure. Sultan Murtaza Nizam Shah is at Mahuli Fort now, with Shahaji in his service. Jadhav Rao, leading Mughal-backed forces, lays siege to Mahuli.
And Shahaji holds out.
For 6 months. The biography highlights his incredible defense. Couldn't break the siege ultimately, but his determination was clear. His loyalty really stands out again.
It paints such a picture of commitment. The biography calls him, the last loyal officer capable of saving the Nizam Shahi?
Something like that, but then this strange prejudice, as the source calls it, arises against him from the Sultan's mother, instigated by Lukshi Jadhav, apparently.
How frustrating. You show loyalty, competence, and get undermined by court politics.
It was a critical moment. The Sultan himself was losing heart, leaning towards submission. Shahaji saw the writing on the wall.
Knew it was futile to keep fighting alone.
Pretty much. He felt the state was collapsing and decided to withdraw rather than be part of the final downfall. He told the Sultan and his mother his plan.
And then escaped.
Under cover of darkness. Broke through the siege lines with a small group of loyal veterans, and crucially, his pregnant wife Jijabai and young son Samhaji were with him.
Wow. Imagine Jijabai's courage. Pregnant, fleeing a siege.
It's incredible. Shows Shahaji's priorities too, ensuring her safety even then.
A daring escape. But Jadhav Rao pursues them relentlessly.
Right on their heels, seeking revenge, chases them all the way to the borders of Fulton.
But he has to stop there because of the Nimbalkars.
Yeah, they were allied with Shivaji, so Jadhav Rao is forced to halt, which leads Shahaji to find refuge for Jijabai at Shivneri Fort.
Under Srinivasrao's protection.
Exactly, a vital sanctuary. But Jadhav Rao shows up there too, initially wanting revenge.
What stops him?
Persuasion, apparently. Arguments about Jijabai's innocence, the disgrace if a Jadhav daughter fell into Mughal hands. It worked.
But the meeting between Jijabai and her father, painful.
deeply painful, according to the text. She reproached him, refused to go with him back to Sinkhed, stayed at Shivneri, never set foot in her father's lands again, shows incredible strength of will.
So Jijabai finds sanctuary, but Shahaji has to keep moving, flees towards Bijapur.
Yes, but he's not just running. He'd already sent Balkrishnapant Hanumante ahead on a political mission, thinking ahead.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And Bijapur recognizes his value.
The statesmen there, Mora Jagdeo and Randula Khan, saw his ability. The Adil Shahi Sultan welcomed him, promised cooperation to preserve what was left of the Nizam Shahi, even gave some military support.
So he's actively looking for new alliances, keeping the resistance alive.
Definitely demonstrates his political foresight. Even in retreat, he's planning, regrouping. Getting that welcome in Bijapur was significant. Acknowledged his value against the Mughals.
Meanwhile, back in Ahmednagar, chaos after Malik Ambar's death. His son Fatteh Khan takes over as vizier.
Yeah, but he lacked his father's touch, his ability, alienated the nobility, unsuccessful wars with the Mughals, and a shaky peace.
And the Sultan gets fed up with him.
Resented his arrogance, yeah, replaced him with Takrib Khan, which then brings Jadhav Rao back into Nizam Shahi service.
It's dizzying, all these shifts in loyalty, power struggles.
And it gets darker. Sultan Murtaza Shah, driven by revenge, plots against Jadhav Rao, even though he desperately needed Jadhav Rao's military skill.
Doesn't make strategic sense.
Not at all. It culminates in the treacherous murder of Jadhav Rao and his son Akloji inside Daulatabad fort. Brutal, shocking, underscores the ruthless politics of the time.
The consequences must have been huge.
Massive. Jadhav Rao's widow fled to the Mughals. They transferred his lands and title to his brother, Botajiao, whose family stayed loyal to the Mughals.
And for Shahaji, seeing his father-in-law murdered like that.
That had to be the final straw. Any hope of reconciliation, of stable service under that sultan, gone. He realized he needed a completely new path.
A turning point. He decides to carve out his own space.
Exactly. Recognizes the danger, the futility of serving such an untrustworthy ruler, resolves to go independent, starts actively conquering territory.
Whereabouts?
Gained control of a big area, from Sangamner down to Pune. Captured several key forts nearby.
But that steps on Bijapur's toes, right? He starts encroaching on their territory.
Inevitably, they send an army, capture Pune, even burn down his mansion.
Ouch. So he's not strong enough to take on Bijapur directly yet.
Not yet. He falls back, allies again with Srinavis Rao of Junar. It's this pattern. Build up, face setbacks, forge new alliances.
His resilience is incredible, though.
Truly. He refuses to be deterred, starts rebuilding, fortifies an old fort, Pamagad, renames it Shamgad, gradually reclaims his old lands, builds up a force again.
How big a force?
About 5,000-6,000 men eventually. Reasserts control over a large area, including the strategic Belagat district.
Okay, so he's rebuilding, consolidating, and then another twist. Khan Jahan Lodi.
Yeah, this influential Mughal commander, Khan Jahan Lodi, falls out of favor with Emperor Shah Jahan, seeks refuge in Ahmednagar territory.
And gets local support.
Significant support from the local gentry, which sparks a long war with the Mughals.
And Shahaji, surprisingly, supports Lodi, actively hinders the Mughals.
It seems surprising, but it shows the fluid nature of alliances. Shahaji, despite having served the Mughals before, saw a chance to weaken them by backing Lodi. His support definitely slowed the Mughals down for a while.
But Emperor Shah Jahan sees the danger in this alliance. Nizam Shahi remnants, Maratha nobles, a rugged Mughal commander.
Exactly. He recognizes the threat, decides to intervene personally. Issues a proclamation against anyone helping Lodi, sends 3 separate armies.
Overwhelming force.
Too much for Lodi. He's defeated, killed, tried to get Bijapur's help, but failed. Which leaves Shahaji, well, in a very dangerous spot, exposed to Mughal retaliation.
So what are his options? He's pretty isolated now.
Very few good options. Ultimately, he decides to seek terms with the Mughals again, offers submission through Azim Khan, asks for amnesty, offers service.
And Shah Jahan accepts.
Yes. Pragmatically, Shah Jahan recognized Shahaji's military skill and saw the advantage of having him on side for the final push against the Ahmednagar kingdom.
So he grants him amnesty and a position.
Confers a high mansab, 5,000, and grants him districts like Junar and Sangamner back in 1629. Even gives ranks to Shahaji's relatives. Basically brings him and his network into the Mughal fold.
So Shahaji submits. End of his defiance, for now. But the Deccan itself, still unstable. Famine.
Cholera.
A terrible time. Severe famine, cholera epidemic hit the Nizam Shahi lands hard. Mass deaths, depopulation, compounded by the Mughal War, just grim.
But catastrophe.
Absolutely weakened the already fragile state. And the Mughals used the opportunity to put their own people in charge, replacing Nizam Shahi officials.
And the Nizam Shah himself, desperate.
Yeah, blames his vizier, sacks him, and brings back Fatteh Khan.
Fatteh Khan, the treacherous one. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
And it was. Fatteh Khan immediately plots revenge against the Sultan, spreads rumors the Sultan is mad,
Oh no.
imprisons him, secretly has him strangled, then massacres nobles loyal to the king. Utterly ruthless power grab.
Just brutal. And then he tries to legitimize it. Petitions Shah Jahan, claims loyalty, installs a puppet prince on the throne. But Shah Jahan wasn't fooled.
He saw Fatteh Khan's game.
Knew exactly what he was up to. Saw him as a tool to get the last remaining Nizam Shahi assets, mostly the hill forts.
So Shah Jahan makes demands. Jewels, elephants.
Right. Demands the state jewels, elephants. Says the puppet king can rule a tiny area, and Fatteh Khan himself gets a personal estate, a jagir.
What's a jagir again?
It's basically a land grant. Revenue from the land pays the official salary and expenses, standard practice.
Got it. Fatteh Khan resists at first.
Initially, yeah. But the Mughal army pressure is too much. He has to agree, give up the valuables, pay indemnity, annual tribute.
And crucially, some of Shahaji's old districts were included in Fatteh Khan's jagir.
Exactly. Which, understandably, makes Shahaji think about rebellion all over again.
That perceived slight really pushes him. So what does he do? Tries to ally with Bijapur again?
Yes, his focus shifts back to Bijapur. He reaches out to Morarpant, the chief minister there, makes peace.
And pitches a plan.
Astutely points out the chaos in the Nizam Shahi under Fatteh Khan, suggests an easy joint conquest of Daulatabad fort.
And Bijapur goes for it, seeing the advantage of Shahaji's anti-Mughal experience.
They do. They approve the plan, put a Bijapur army under Shahaji's command. He and Morarpant advance on Daulatabad.
Fatteh Khan must have panicked.
Totally. Tries to cut a deal with the Mughals again, offers them Daulatabad in return for protection against Bijapur, playing both sides.
A desperate gamble.
Shah Jahan responds by ordering Mohabbat Khan to help Fatteh Khan, which leads to a battle. Shahaji and the Bijapur forces against the Mughals.
Who wins?
Mughals have superior numbers. Shahaji is forced to retreat, but he doesn't give up. He and the Bijapur ministers tried diplomacy, secret talks with Fatteh Khan.
What's the offer this time?
They warn him not to give Daulatabad to the Mughals, offer him an alliance with Bijapur instead if he puts the fort in their hands and compensates Shahaji.
And Fatteh Khan switches sides again, betrays the Mughals.
Audaciously, yes, orders the artillery in Daulatabad to open fire on the Mughal camp. Shahaji and the Bijapur troops join the attack. It's a stunning move.
Wow, but it doesn't work in the end.
No. Despite the bold move, the Mughals under Mohabbat Khan are too strong. They eventually storm Daulatabad and capture it in 1633.
And that's pretty much the end for Fatteh Khan.
His downfall is complete. Surrenders to the Mughals, loses all authority, retires on a pension. The puppet prince, off to prison in Gwalior.
So 1633 marks the final end of the Nizam Shahi dynasty, annexed by the Mughals.
Permanently annexed. Shah Jahan thinks he's finally won in the Deccan, but he doesn't know about Shahaji's future plans to try and revive it again.
Even during that Daulatabad siege, Shahaji kept up guerrilla tactics, right? Harassing the Mughals.
Always fighting, which led Mohabbat Khan to try and capture Jijabai out of revenge while she was at Bijapur.
How did that play out?
A local fort governor, trying to impress the Mughals after defecting, managed to capture her and bring her to the Mughal camp.
But she wasn't held for long.
No, because Lupchi Jadhav's brother, who was serving the Mughals, intervened, argued it was an insult to the Jadhav family, given their feud with Shahaji. And besides, Shahaji had moved on, so what was the point?
Interesting argument.
It worked. The Khan handed Jijabai over to the Jadavs, and they, surprisingly, returned her safely to Kandana, a fort still held by Shahaji.
So, despite setbacks, Bijapur retreating tactically, Shahaji still determined to restore the Nizam Shahi.
Remarkably resolute, starts raising another army near Bhimgad, retakes districts from Pune and Shakan down to Balaghat.
The Mughals try to negotiate, offer him his old job back.
Yeah, an officer named Iradat Khan tries through Shahaji's relative, Shahaji Bhonsle, offers the old mansab, but Shahaji's thinking bigger now.
He's got momentum, a decent force.
8 to 10,000 men, regains significant territory. But he knows he still needs Bijapur's backing.
So more negotiations with Bijapur, through Morarpant again.
Exactly. Explicitly promises to revive the Nizam Shahi. He manages to overcome skepticism from some Bijapur statesmen, secures their support.
What's the
A formal covenant. Shahaji finds a Nizam Shahi descendant, puts him on the throne, and governs in his name. Basically, the power behind the throne.
And he does it. Finds a prince.
Finds a young prince, Murtaza. Crowns him king at Bimgad in 1634. Bimgad becomes the new capital.
And people rally to this revived Nizam Shahi.
Loyal gentry, former soldiers, they flock to his cause. He makes quick gains. Kamkan, east to Ahmednagar, south to the Chandor Mountains. Next target, Junar.
Junar, that's Srinivasarau's territory, his former ally.
Right. Shahaji wants to bring him under the new Nizam Shahi authority, but Srinivasarau refuses, puts his own interests first.
So Shahaji uses a trick?
A clever stratagem. Proposes a fake marriage between his son Sambhaji and one of Srinivasarau's relatives. Lures him to a feast.
And arrests him. Captures his land.
Exactly. Swift and decisive. Then he goes after other independent chiefs nearby.
But Emperor Shah Jahan must be hearing about all this. A revived Nizam Shah.
Oh, yes. He's not happy. Responds by sending a large Mughal army.
How does Shahaji fare against them?
He gets help from Bijapur, actually manages an initial win against a Mughal force at Parinda. But Shah Jahan just sends a bigger army.
Relentless pressure.
But Shahaji, again with Bijapur's help, Randula Khan, Moorapont harasses them, thwarts their attempts to force a decisive battle, hinders their progress significantly.
Shah Jahan must be furious. His triumph over the Nizam Shahi is being undone.
Exasperated, especially annoyed at Bijapur for helping Shahaji. He sees Shahaji as a really formidable opponent now.
So he decides to take charge personally, lead a massive army.
Yes. Resolves to crush Shahaji and maybe take out Bijapur and Golconda while he's at it, and the Deccan problem for good.
His first move is to isolate Shahaji by pressuring Bijapur.
Exactly. Issues an ultimatum to Bijapur, surrender all the Nizam Shahi forts they hold, Parinda, Sholapur, the big cannon Malki Maidan. Stop helping Shahaji.
What's in it for Bijapur if they comply?
Shah Jahan offers them Konkan, Sholapur, surrounding territories. But if they don't comply, extinction, full Mughal invasion.
Does Bijapur defy him initially? Because of nobles sympathetic to Shahaji.
Some initial defiance, yes.
So Shah Jahan decides to hit both, attacks Shahaji and Bijapur.
Simultaneously. Divides his massive army, 4 columns, 2 against Shahaji under Shaista Khan and Kanjaman, 2 against Bijapur.
What's the plan against Shahaji?
Shaista Khan to conquer specific territories, Kanjaman to engage Shahaji in the plains, push him into the Konkan hills.
Attacked on 2 fronts. How does Shahaji handle that?
Incredible courage, strategic skill. But he's just massively outnumbered.
He has some initial success harassing them.
Yes, but eventually suffers defeats, loses around 25 forts, territory near Sholapur, Bedar, Konkan outposts, he's forced to retreat.
Where to?
Ahmednagar first, then Champargande, Barmati, eventually near Kolhapur and Miraj.
Does he get help from Bijapur?
Gets reinforcements, launches counterattacks, disrupts Mughal supply lines, forces the Mughals to stop chasing him directly for a bit.
So Shah Jahan changes tactics, tells Kanjaman to leave Shahaji for now and focus on Bijapur.
Yes, believes Shahaji will be easy pickings once Bijapur is dealt with.
And the Mughal invasion of Bijapur. It's devastating.
Widespread destruction. Forts, towns captured, people enslaved. A huge army marches on Bijapur city itself. Sultan Adil Shah panics, seeks negotiations.
Leading to a peace treaty. What are the terms?
Bijapur gets to keep key forts and territories. Parinda, Sholapur, Bidar, Kalyani, Naldur, the Cannon, parts of Konkan, up to Chakan, but they have to pay annual tribute.
And the crucial part for Shahaji.
He gets a pardon only if he surrenders all his forts, cannons, everything, and Bijapur agrees. No shelter for Shahaji. If he doesn't comply, he's an enemy to both Mughals and Bijapur.
Wow. Bijapur is forced out of the alliance. Shahaji is totally isolated now.
Isolated, but still determined to fight.
But the Mughals turn their full attention back to him.
Relentless pursuit now. Shahaji retreats into the Konkan, prepares his remaining forts.
Do Mughals follow him there?
They do. Invade the Konkan, capture hill forts, and they're even aided by a Bijapur contingent now, under Randula Khan.
His former allies are helping hunt him down. That's harsh. His situation seems hopeless.
Dire. Submission looks like the only way out. He sends a petition to the emperor, asks for pardon, offers service again.
Is it accepted this time?
No, rejected. The emperor basically says, "We remember your past disloyalty. Go serve Bijapur instead."
So, no welcome mat from the Mughals. What's his final move?
He makes the tough call, purchases peace by surrendering the puppet Sultan, Murtaza, at Mahuli, then comes down to Bijapur with his followers in 1637, entering their service.
So wrapping this up, Shahaji's early career, it's just this constant balancing act in a crazy political landscape. Shifting loyalties, nonstop war, Nizam Shahi, Mughals, internal Maratha factions.
Absolutely. His bravery, his military skill, his strategic mind, they're all clear. But ultimately, the odds, the overwhelming power he faced, it led to his submission to Bijapur. Pragmatic, perhaps?
And connecting back to why we started this deep dive, understanding Shivaji's context, it's so clear now how this turbulent world, the fall of the Nizam Shahi, the rise of the Mughals, and Shahaji's own complex journey, his successes and ultimate submission, how all that shaped the world Shivaji inherited.
Profoundly shaped it. The challenges Shivaji faced later, you can see their roots right here.
Which leaves us with a final thought for everyone listening. Think about all those betrayals, the shifting loyalties, the sheer brutality of power politics during Shahaji's time. How might that have influenced young Shivaji's view of power, of alliances?
Right. What lessons, maybe harsh lessons, did Shivaji learn from watching his father's long struggle and eventual submission? Something to really ponder.
Definitely. And look, this deep dive, it really just scratches the surface of this amazing period.
Absolutely. We'd really encourage everyone to explore further. The history of the Deccan Sultanates, those early clashes between the Marathas and the Mughals, it's incredibly rich and complex.
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.